22-year-old Antonio Drayton was a smooth-talking ladies' man, tearing up the North Florida club scene.
He definitely is what we would consider a player.
42-year-old Cassandra Kimbrough was a sultry older woman who caught and kept Antonio's attention in a way no one else could.
He was feeding off of her energy and everything that she had to offer.
But sparks from their white-hot romance would ignite deadly consequences.
They found a human body.
The only part of her that wasn't charred was right in the middle of her face.
Now get a front row seat for this shocking story of jealousy and betrayal. And learn how the search for the killer not only led police down a twisted path of sex and scandal, but left everyone wondering whether this was a heated crime of passion or a carefully planned and cold-blooded conspiracy.
She knew exactly what she was getting into, and she did it anyway.
Gainesville, Florida. It was the early morning hours of December 30th, 2010. On County Road 225, a mother and daughter were driving through a wooded stretch just north of town. But as they rounded a bend, the night sky suddenly lit up with the orange glow of flames.
They called into the fire department and said, "There's a brush fire on the side of the road out here. Somebody needs to come out."
Firefighters rushed to the scene and doused the flames just short of the tree line. But when the smoke cleared, they made a shocking discovery.
They found a human body.
Their immediate response is to back out, get everybody out of that area, and call law enforcement.
Sheriff's detectives soon arrived to take a closer look at the charred corpse.
About 90% of the body was burnt. We couldn't make any positive identification.
But the victim's remains did reveal one identifying detail to investigators.
You could tell from the size of the body, it looked like a young black female.
The woman's ID may have been a mystery, but a familiar smell hovering over the scene told police this fire, and most likely the woman's death, was no accident.
You could smell the distinct odor of gasoline.
It was evident right away that there was foul play and that this was a homicide.
But who was this girl? And who had left her body to burn on the side of a deserted road? The answers to these questions would reveal a crime of passion so dark and devious that it would bring this unassuming community to its knees and expose a pair of perpetrators whose obsession, jealousy, and rage knew no bounds.
People were shocked. Oh my God, what happened? Who would do something so awful?
Gainesville, Florida. Nestled in the north-central part of the state, Gainesville is home to the University of Florida. Gainesville was also home to 22-year-old Antonio Drayton. Born in 1986, Antonio Drayton's childhood was turbulent. His early years were a revolving door of foster care and orphanage facilities. And Antonio grew up yearning for the unconditional affection and stability that a childhood without parents had denied him. But despite a rough start in life, Antonio always made the best of things.
He had a good spirit, though, you know what I'm saying? He was a loving, caring person.
Once he became a teenager, Antonio lucked into a foster family that struck the right balance of discipline and love, along with a healthy dose of the Holy Spirit.
Church is all we knew. Growing up in the church, going to church 24/7.
A stable church-going foster home helped Antonio do well in school and become a loyal contributing member of the household.
He was a loving, caring brother, and what I asked him to do, he'll do it. I mean, he always kept a good head on the shoulders, you know what I'm saying?
But as Antonio grew closer to manhood, school, friends, and family ties became no match for his powerful teenage libido.
He had a lot of charisma. I think he attracted a lot of women.
Growing up, the only trouble he got into was trouble with females.
To his foster family's dismay, Higher education and church activity took a back seat to chasing women. By the time he left high school and moved out of his foster home, Antonio had established a reputation as a player. He became a fixture of the local club scene, where he could be found most nights working his charms on any number of attractive and spellbound young women.
He was a party guy. He liked to have fun. He had a reputation of a ladies' man. He was somebody who took center stage.
He loved all women, and they loved him back, and for good reason. He was smooth, suave, and charismatic.
He was well liked. He was just kind of a player.
But Antonio's playboy lifestyle wasn't cheap, and he supported his rousing late nights with long days working in a warehouse. And it was on the job, not the club, where Antonio finally met a woman who would not only make him pump the brakes on his womanizing ways, but change his life in a manner no one could have imagined. 42-year-old receptionist Cassandra Kimbrough. Cassandra was raised by a hardworking single mom. Pretty and popular, she started dating early. By the time she was in her 20s, she became a single mom herself. Cassandra continued dating while raising her children. Relationship followed relationship, some good, some bad, but none that lasted. She loved her kids and worked hard to support them. But as Cassandra moved past 40, she wished she'd been luckier in love and had enjoyed more stability in her personal life. It seemed that every man she became involved with was destined to leave her in the lurch. The harder she clung, the more painful the loss, especially with kids in the mix.
You know, being a single mother, you can kind of get emotional.
Being a single mom left Cassandra no time to daydream about Mr. Right.
She was a quiet woman. She had 2 part-time jobs. She had children, and her mom helped out with daycare and watching over the kids.
Prince Charming wasn't coming. All Cassandra wanted now was a man who could appreciate her for who she was and take the love she had to give. But even that seemed like a long shot. But Cassandra was still looking. And when a handsome young employee began working at the warehouse where she was a receptionist, she couldn't take her eyes off him.
Cassandra was attracted to Tony for some of the same reasons younger girls were attracted to him.
For Antonio, an older woman's interest was nothing new. But as they flirted in the workplace together, he began to feel that there was real chemistry between them. Cassandra's maturity impressed Antonio. She was always well-dressed and poised, and wasn't flighty and superficial like the girls at the club. And as they got to know each other, Cassandra discovered a sweet and kind side to the young player who'd caught her eye.
He showed interest in her. He was a good-looking guy. He presented himself very well, and she's somebody that she wanted to be with.
Cassandra surprised herself by making the first move. Antonio quickly accepted, and she was glad that he did. The younger man's assured physical attention brought Cassandra to dizzying heights of pleasure that she hadn't felt in years.
I think that with her, there was a couple of things that maybe blinded her a little bit. One, maybe his looks, and 2, his youth, and possibly her personal situation as far as where she was in relationship-wise.
Antonio reignited a fire in her that had been dormant for too long. As they spent more nights together, Cassandra's smoldering feelings roared into a raging blaze of passion.
This young, attractive guy was giving her the time of her life in the bedroom and treating her just like he treated a girl his age.
In the last few years, you know, it's become kind of cool to be a cougar. I don't know if maybe she played into that. Maybe she liked being older.
Cassandra was hooked, but their fantasy love life couldn't disguise reality. Cassandra recognized that her new man was a player at heart, and it would only be a matter of time before he would move on to someone younger. To keep Antonio interested, Cassandra began doing anything she could to hold his attention.
Clothing, housing, I mean, everything you name, she pretty much did it.
She pretty much took care of him. She made sure he had what he needed. His apartments were in her name, stuff like that.
Cassandra's desperate move worked like a charm. Antonio had never really been taken care of before, and he liked it. In return, bad boy Antonio made sure to demonstrate his appreciation in the bedroom.
She supplemented him with income and financial backing, and I think that she enjoyed it because of the attention that he provided for her.
But for Antonio, it was more than just money that kept him coming back. While Antonio still visited his foster home regularly, being with Cassandra felt like an oasis of calm and nurturing attention that not even his foster family or the church could provide. For now, Cassandra and Antonio's unusual arrangement seemed like the perfect romantic situation for both of them. But their happy relationship would soon trap them in a deadly web of deceit. Antonio and Cassandra's love for each other would force each of them to confront their darkest personal demons. Coming up, detectives struggle to put a face and name on a body burned beyond recognition.
The longer it takes to get started on the investigation, the harder it is to actually solve a case.
And a quarreling couple just may lead the investigation in the right direction.
They'll start arguing, police get called.
Cassandra Kimbrough was a 42-year-old single working mom who had fallen for the much younger 24-year-old Antonio Drayton.
It was that kind of situation where she would do anything that he asked her to do.
Antonio's talent for physical intimacy took Cassandra to heights of ecstasy she'd never before scaled with any other man.
She was getting a second chance at being young again.
But this happy romance would soon face an unexpected challenge. In the early hours of December 30th, 2010, Alachua County detectives were called to a remote roadside where a badly charred body had been discovered in the ashes of a brush fire. Investigators established that the victim was a young African-American woman and that the fire had been set on purpose.
When we first approached the body and started to document the way she was recovered, you could smell the distinct odor of gasoline.
It was evident right away that there was foul play and that this was a homicide.
A painstaking search of the ash-sown crime scene yielded a napkin and a fragment of a cell phone case, but nothing else. Clearly, putting a name on the victim was not going to be easy.
It's a very big deal to be able to identify the person and get started as quickly as possible. The longer it takes to get started on the investigation, the harder it is to actually solve a case.
You're kind of running out of time. The sands of the hourglass are kind of slipping through your fingers because you don't know where to start at that point in time. So you don't have family or relatives or friends or possible loved ones you can actually contact.
Though the woman's hands were badly burned, lab techs refused to give up. A single fingerprint could get the case moving. After many hours, they finally got what they were looking for.
One of her hands was not as badly charred as the other, so they were able to obtain fingerprints from one of her hands.
Detectives ran the fingerprints through their database and soon hit a match. 21-year-old Salia Huda. When detectives interviewed Salia's heartbroken father, he described his daughter as a bright, beautiful girl who was both a good student and a University of Florida cheerleader. According to Salia's dad, he was the last one in the family to see her alive.
She just stopped in and then, left.
Detectives estimated that the fire was set late on the same night that Salia's dad saw her walk out the door for the final time.
People had been trying to call and get a hold of her, and it was unusual for her to not answer her phone.
What, investigators wondered, had happened to Salia after she left her parents' house? The answer might be found at Salia Huda's own apartment nearby. Security guards at Salia's complex reported to police that the young woman's car was missing from the building parking lot. A security log revealed that she left early Wednesday evening, not long before she arrived at her family's home.
Her apartment complex actually had a key passcode that you have to use to get in and out so you can see when she came and left from there.
A preliminary exam of Salia's apartment unit didn't tell police much more.
We didn't see any signs of a struggle. There was no evidence of any wrongdoing or any foul play.
Nothing in her apartment gave us any clues that, anything happened there. We had no evidence that anything happened at her apartment after going through everything.
But when investigators canvassed the complex, what they heard from neighbors proved very interesting. Residents within earshot of Salia's apartment told police that the young co-ed had a volatile relationship with a long-term boyfriend. The couple frequently argued, and from what neighbors heard through the walls, the boyfriend did all the yelling.
They'll start arguing, police get called.
But neighbors couldn't agree on a name for Salia's troubling ex-boyfriend. Then, county detectives received a call from a man who identified himself as Salia Huda's boyfriend, 21-year-old Mike Carter. Mike told investigators he'd spent Tuesday night and Wednesday day at Salia's apartment until Salia left to run errands. They were supposed to meet up again that evening.
The plan was that she had to go do some running around. Salia had to go by her parents, and Mike had plans to then get back with Salia that evening, and that never occurred.
After hours of waiting patiently to hear from Salia, Mike called her cell. But the woman who answered wasn't his girlfriend.
It wasn't Salia, which he thought was really weird because, who answers other people's cell phones?
I have a female picked up the phone, said, hello, what is this? I said, it's Mike. And I speak to Salia, she sleep. So I was like, okay, can you wake up? It's important. So she, I guess she was gonna tell him. They're well, she said she'll call you tomorrow. I said, okay, then. I'm like, all right.
Mike was unable to identify the woman's voice and told police he had no idea who she might be. After exhaustive questioning, it became clear to police that Salia's boyfriend was telling the truth.
He called us. That's always a good faith effort if they come to us first, but you still have to verify that their story is true.
And when police confronted Mike with neighbors' stories of knockdown, drag-out lovers' quarrels, Mike pleaded mistaken identity. He'd only been dating Salia for a month, he said. The man that neighbors described to police wasn't him. It was Salia Huda's previous boyfriend. Pressed for a name, Mike admitted the only thing he knew about Salia's ex was what he'd seen on her cell phone.
You know his name?
Only initial she had in the phone was AD.
Police now had two mysteries to solve on the trail of Salia Huda's killer. Who was the woman who answered her phone on the night she was killed? And who was AD? But the trail heated up, seemingly on its own. At Salia's apartment, a young man asked to speak to a detective in charge. He identified himself as Salia's boyfriend, told investigators that he'd heard about the disappearance, and offered to assist police in their search.
An unidentified male walked up and introduced himself and said that he was the boyfriend of Salia Huda, and he asked if he could help in any way.
His name? Antonio Drayton. Coming up, dark details of a dysfunctional romance lead investigators down a twisted path.
There was a relationship where there were, many domestic violence issues.
Where a couple's secrets hold the answers to a deadly mystery.
Because it's very easy to remember the truth. It's very difficult to remember a lie.
Despite the age gap, 24-year-old Antonio Drayton and his 42-year-old girlfriend Cassandra Kimbrough made their unusual relationship work.
He was, giving her passion back. It was almost like getting her groove back or feeling young again.
Cassandra worked 2 jobs to both support her family and get her man anything he wanted.
She seemed like she was just caught up in all this. She did whatever Antonio asked her to do.
And theirs was an open relationship. Antonio was free to see whoever he pleased. And as a major player on the Gainesville club scene, he saw a lot that pleased him.
Cassandra, she was just a different breed. She didn't mind whether he had females. She didn't care.
And when he came home to her, Antonio made sure to show Cassandra that she was and always would be #1. But police investigating the murder of Celia Huda were starting to unravel a different tangled romantic history. When the University of Florida co-ed was found burned nearly past the point of identification, Celia's neighbors and her heartbroken boyfriend Mike all agreed on one thing. Celia's boyfriend before Mike, known only by the initials AD, had been nothing but trouble.
There was a relationship where there were, many domestic violence issues.
At first, the search for AD seemed like looking for a needle in a haystack. That is until a man with the right initials came forward on his own.
He introduced himself and said that he was the boyfriend of Celia Huda. He appeared to be very honest, very open, and clearly he was concerned about Celia's whereabouts from his demeanor, and he asked if he could help in any way.
The Good Samaritan's name? Antonio Drayton. Antonio told officers that he'd met Celia 2 years earlier and that their relationship had developed into a passionate but volatile affair, one that Celia's family didn't like.
It was a rocky relationship back and forth, and the family didn't like Antonio at all.
A search through police records indicated that Celia may have come around to her family's way of thinking. The previous July, the couple had an argument so ferocious that police were called. But once she cooled off, Celia refused to press charges.
The case just never went forward because really Celia didn't want it to go forward and just dropped the case.
According to her girlfriends, even though Celia declared the romance with Antonio over from that point on, their supposed breakup included regular hookups followed by inevitable jealous arguments.
He would kind of blow her off, and then that night here he'd come calling, well, where are you at? Where are you going? I want to see you.
Celia's friends told police that just 4 days before Celia's disappearance, a ladies' room confrontation with Antonio's newest conquest, Angela, sent Celia out the door and into her car.
They had some words. Something happened down at the club one night. There's always some jealousy that can come up.
When detectives sat down with Antonio, he told them that at first Celia ignored his calls and his attempts to make up. But by Wednesday, the night Celia was killed, she seemed to have changed her mind.
I get a text message from Leah. Leah says, where are you? She says, where are you? I said, I'm home. And she was like, how long are you going to be?
But Celia never showed up. Antonio told police that instead of the two hooking up, he spent the evening with his steady girlfriend Cassandra, watching movies at home and occasionally texting Celia. But he never got an answer. When she still hadn't replied by 3 a.m., he called her. When it went to voicemail, Antonio said he assumed the worst.
The only time Leah doesn't answer her phone is if she's with her parents or she's mad, but her phone is never off.
When he heard the news of Celia's death, Antonio knew their contentious romance would eventually lead police straight to his door. So he came to police instead.
I done been in trouble due to Celia. I don't think it's going to be back on me. And that's how I felt from the jump.
Detectives looked at this Good Samaritan witness from 2 angles.
There's 2 possibilities. You either have a concerned ex or current boyfriend that you have to be respectful to, and you have to consider they have a loss in their family or a close one has been taken from them. At the same time, you can't eliminate them from being a suspect because our job is to be objective and to look at things objectively, and that everyone is a possible person of interest.
But with a confirmed alibi from Cassandra backing up his story, police were obligated to put Antonio on the back burner. Instead, they focused on the last person anyone had seen arguing with Celia. Witnesses had seen Celia arguing with another club regular named Angela. Angela, police were told, wasn't just any girl on the scene. She was Antonio's latest conquest, and friends said, his new girlfriend. When detectives checked into Angela's background, they immediately promoted her to a person of interest. The fingerprints police had on file for Celia were from a complaint Angela had made against Celia Huda.
Celia was arrested for violation of a restraining order.
Miss Owens took out an injunction against her.
Police questioned Angela and learned that when she hooked up with Antonio, Celia's aggressive jealousy forced her to take out a restraining order, one that Celia had ignored.
She showed up where she wasn't supposed to show up, and she was charged with the violation.
But after that incident, Angela said, Celia seemed to have gotten the message, until they crossed paths in the ladies' room on Christmas night. But Angela assured investigators that despite what they may have heard from bystanders, their conversation had been just that, a conversation.
There was no argument between you guys, no physical...
No, no, nothing. No argument, no confrontation. And that was the first time we had ever even had a conversation.
Angela told investigators that after their heart-to-heart, the two women's paths never crossed again. And what's more, Angela was nowhere near on the night of the murder, and she could prove it.
She ended up having an alibi that she wasn't there during the time frame of what we're looking at.
Finally, police asked Angela about Antonio's relationship with his older steady, Cassandra Kimbrough. What did Angela know about their arrangement? According to Angela, neither she nor the other girls in Antonio's life even saw Cassandra as competition.
Tony had pretty much convinced her that this lady was somebody who was just looking after him and just was always there to help. So she never for once thought that they were having some sort of relationship.
But Angela shared one thing she thought was unusual about Antonio and Cassandra's relationship. A phone conversation she overheard between them on the night that Celia disappeared had stuck in her mind. And when she described what she heard, shocked police had to ask her to repeat it.
I guess going back to that conversation that he had with Cass that night that you overheard, he was asking for
Bleach
and
rags.
And rags. Okay. Anything else?
And gloves.
Gloves?
Yes.
For what?
I don't know.
It was now clear to investigators that no matter which way they turned, all investigative roads led back to Cassandra and Antonio. And yet they remained stonewalled by alibis and a lack of physical proof. Coming up, the surprise discovery of an unexpected and indisputable piece of evidence puts justice seemingly within reach.
As soon as we opened the door, you could smell an overpowering odor of gasoline.
It kind of all snapped into place for us at one time.
May to December couple Antonio Drayton and Cassandra Kimbrough were deep in the throes of a unique love affair. Cassandra underwrote Antonio's playboy lifestyle, and Antonio was free to carry on with any woman he pleased, as long as his heart belonged to her.
Cassandra, she was just a different breed. Like, she didn't mind whether he had females.
He was seeing numerous women at the same time.
But after the burned body of Celia Huda, one of Antonio's harem of long-term part-time girlfriends was found in the ashes of a remote brush fire. Each new clue police uncovered seemed to point back to Antonio.
Right off the bat, once we sat down with Antonio, we could tell that, he was not being completely truthful with us. We had multiple people of interest, but Antonio's name just kept coming back to the surface.
But without something tangible to connect him to the murder, Antonio was still merely a suspect. The pressure was on to find a key to unlock the case. Physical proof, eyewitness testimony, or a confession would put Antonio at the scene of the crime and place him behind bars for good. From day one of their investigation, Alachua County Sheriff's detectives had been forced to make the most with very little. The scorched earth of the crime scene itself had yielded only a paper napkin and a piece of his cell phone case. If forensic investigators hadn't successfully raised a fingerprint from the otherwise anonymous corpse, they might still be looking for a name instead of the arrest that remained just outside their grasp. Police were now forced to search for what just might be the single most important missing detail. What, they asked themselves, had happened to Salea's car that night?
She did not dump herself on that county road, so she had to get from point A to point B at some point in time. If she was taken from her apartment or taken from another location, we had to find out where that vehicle is.
After days of searching, Salea's car was finally discovered, parked in a nearby apartment parking lot. And while the address was nowhere near Salea's building, or the remote location where her body had been found, it did have one obvious geographical distinction.
Salea's car was found in an apartment complex within walking distance of Antonio Drayton's apartment.
Crime scene investigators found Salea's purse and wallet on the car's front seat, but no fingerprints tying Antonio to the car. But the air within the car strongly hinted that it had indeed been used to deliver the co-ed to her gruesome ultimate fate.
As soon as we opened the door, you could smell an overpowering odor of gasoline. We could tell the back passenger floorboard was saturated.
Investigators soon derailed officers to visit every gas station and account for every gas can fill-up between Salea's apartment and the remote location where her body had been found.
We knew to start checking any stores that would have been open at that time of night and to see if we could come up with anything.
They found what they were looking for at a gas station in the nearby town of Stark. A surveillance video from the night of December 30th showed Salea Huda's car pulling up to the pump and a woman getting out.
Fortunately, we were able to get video of a woman. Couldn't really identify the woman. She was buying gas, bought like $2 worth of gas in a gas can.
And while police couldn't make out her face, her husky build displayed the truth. It was not Salea.
Salea was more small-framed, more petite. This person was larger than Salea.
Investigators cautiously concluded that it was probably the woman who answered Salea's phone the last night she was seen alive.
Salea's boyfriend saying that the female answered her phone that night, so this is when everything starts to click a little bit in your head that we really need to check further into what's going on here.
And another look at the map revealed more. Not only was the gas station on the way to the site where Salea was dumped, it was the closest fill-up to Antonio's foster family's home.
Antonio has family that lives in Stark, so one of our next efforts was to track down the family, friends, and people that he knew and see if he showed up that night.
When police asked after Antonio's whereabouts on the night in question, family members confirmed that Antonio had made an unannounced late-night visit and had made an unusual request.
They told us that Antonio came by there asking for some money and for a gas can.
And during a phone call on New Year's Day, Antonio's brother Pedro heard something that interested police even more.
I was like, bro, what happened, you know what I'm saying? Like, they say, ask Kevin, and like, if I go down, I ain't going down by myself.
When they heard Cassandra's name, detectives queued up the gas station surveillance footage for Pedro. Antonio's stepbrother instantly confirmed that the woman driver was indeed Antonio's girlfriend.
You certain that was Cassandra?
Cassandra Kimbrough.
Now detectives had to answer a new series of questions. Would Cassandra Kimbrough kill an innocent woman over Antonio Drayton? Had she finally had enough of their open relationship and in a jealous rage lashed out at her main rival? If so, were any of Antonio's conquests safe? The only way to get answers was to bring in Cassandra Kimbrough. As cops grilled Cassandra, she stayed cool and stuck to the story they'd heard from Antonio. On the night of the murder, they'd been at home watching movies and enjoying some alone time.
He used Cassandra as an alibi. I was with Cassandra and we were in Gainesville. I went and interviewed Cassandra and she had kind of the same story. She was the alibi for Antonio. So here you have two people that were alibying each other. Where do we go from here?
The investigation was at a deadlock. While police had enough circumstantial connections to detain Cassandra and Antonio, they needed more hard evidence to arrest them, hold them, and get to work on convincing them to tell the whole story.
Things fit together nicely, but you still have to figure out who all the players are and also the testimony of what they're telling us. Are they credible?
Detectives kept digging. Finally, their work paid off. New evidence from a surprising source helped them bolster their case. Using cell phone records, police pinpointed Antonio's whereabouts on the night Celia went missing. And Antonio wasn't home that night as he said. He or his phone had been at the remote scene of the blaze that burned Celia almost past recognition.
Through GPS, we were able to put Antonio Drayton at the crime scene 10 minutes prior to when the 911 call came in of the fire.
And then finally, old evidence delivered the break in the case they'd been waiting for. Only 2 items had been recovered from the blackened body dump site: a cell phone case fragment and a paper napkin. While none of Celia's friends or family had recognized the cell phone case, a late-breaking report from the state crime lab ID'd DNA from the napkin.
We had sent that napkin for analysis, and FDLE did find DNA of the suspect that they had, Antonio Drayton.
The Alachua County Sheriff's Department now had the proof they needed to arrest Antonio, charge him in Celia Huda's murder, and hold Cassandra Kimbrough as an accessory. Police hoped that with both killers off the street and separated from each other, they would be able to obtain full confessions and a conviction that would keep them both behind bars for as long as possible. But would love prove stronger than the law? Coming up, will putting Antonio and Cassandra in the hot seat finally give investigators the proof they need?
All the pieces of the puzzle were together by this point.
And just how far are 2 lovers willing to go before turning on each other?
She knew exactly what she was getting into, and she did it anyway.
In the final days of 2010, University of Florida cheerleader Celia Huda had turned up dead and burnt nearly beyond recognition in a remote wooded area north of Gainesville. Now, after nearly a month-long exhaustive investigation, police finally had enough evidence to arrest her ex-boyfriend Antonio Drayton and Cassandra Kimbrough for Celia's murder.
We already had all the cell phone records. We had the video from the store. We had the family telling us, that he had showed up.
From the beginning, Antonio claimed that he and Cassandra had spent the night of the murder together. But confronted with DNA proof, his sugar mama became his scapegoat.
Once we showed him that we have physical evidence that his DNA was at the scene, then he started changing his story. He blamed Cassandra.
Antonio said he told Cassandra to personally collect a $150 debt Celia owed him. But according to Antonio, Cassandra had taken her boy toy's anger to the next level.
And she came in and she told me they fought. And she said she told her the belt.
Antonio told police that even though he had nothing to do with the murder, he went the distance for Cassandra.
So she poured the gas and she lit the...
She lit the body, yeah. She lit the body up.
He was the accomplice of just helping getting rid of the body. It was all Cassandra. He was just helping out, and he just witnessed.
But detectives weren't buying what Antonio Drayton was selling.
We knew that he was just grasping at straws, trying to figure out something to help get himself out of it.
Police went to work on Cassandra, and it didn't take long for Antonio's longtime lover to become his accuser.
But you can't implicate me in it. I didn't do it.
According to Cassandra, Celia had gone to Antonio's apartment to tell the local Casanova that they were through. Police believe that jealous Antonio simply couldn't take it. As Antonio's hands tightened around her throat, Salia's pleading eyes made him feel like she was his again.
He strangled her. He pretty much compressed her neck until it snapped.
He panicked. He called Cassandra to come over and help. And then from that point, they drove around for a while trying to figure out what to do.
Together, they hatched a plan to douse the body in gasoline and burn it beyond recognition on a remote roadside. Even though Antonio Drayton and Cassandra Kimbrough had crossed the line together, police and prosecutors were prepared to see them pay the price separately.
They decided to use Cassandra as a witness, so they worked out a plea deal with Cassandra to be a state witness in this case.
When prosecutors offered Cassandra a deal, she took it. Cassandra confessed to her part in the cover-up and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Some close to the case felt the punishment was too lenient for the crime.
Her cooperation was very needed and very helpful. However, 2 years, it wasn't like the crime was over and she ran to the police and said, "Help me, help me, help me." I felt like I had to help this person and help us out from the beginning. She helped us out when she knew that there was no other avenue to get out of this crime but to tell us.
In the close to a year Antonio spent awaiting trial, he grew increasingly afraid that Cassandra's testimony might strand him on death row. Finally, at the 11th hour, prosecutors gave Antonio the option to plead guilty to second-degree murder, rather than stand trial for murder 1. Antonio said yes, and the judge sentenced him to 45 years in prison.
We had overwhelming amount of evidence, and there was no getting out of this, and that's the only reason why he went ahead and took the plea deal.
For Salia's friends and family, perhaps the worst part is that at no point in the investigation or plea hearings did Antonio confirm how Salia died. The young co-ed strangulation by her jealous ex-lover was still just police conjecture.
They asked him, did he want to explain what happened? He said no. He didn't want to give them any closure. He didn't give them anything. He gave us nothing.
And only Antonio really knows what happened.
A hardworking single mother and her 2 children suddenly disappear.
She got full responsibility for the kids in the house.
Something's possibly happened to all 3.
But a horrific discovery will tear their family apart.
There's a body on the floor, there's massive amounts of blood.
You can see that her throat's obviously been sliced.
It was a little unnerving. I knew she was a good person.
As the investigation deepens, a disturbing conspiracy takes shape, revealing an unexpected romance.
They believed they had been together in other lives. He liked to have sex with both girls and watch them have sex with each other.
You tell me you break up with him, you just want to be friends, but I think you did it just so I would leave you alone. I told you he was bad news.
They got kind of wrapped off into the fantasy, and it became a reality.
It was calculated, it was planned.
I'm thinking, my Lord, I can't believe this kid, as young as he is playing this part.
As part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Roanoke, Texas offers the rare combination of big city amenities and small-town charm.
During the day, it's busy, but at night, it's a small-town USA. Everybody seems to know everybody.
Roanoke is an excellent place to raise kids. It has great school districts. Roanoke has the usual petty theft and people speeding through town. That's the big catch that our police officers do. So we don't have a lot going on.
But the usually quiet community is shaken on September 26, 2008, when 43-year-old Susan Bailey fails to show up for work at a local retail store.
She was supposed to come and open the store. Her manager tried to call. Susan didn't answer her phone.
The people that she works with are concerned because that's not like her to not either call in or let them know her whereabouts.
The manager had Susan's mother's name as an emergency contact, so he called her up in Minnesota and said, "Do you know what, is your daughter sick today? What's going on? She's not at work." So Susan's mother began to call, and Susan didn't answer. She had tried to call off and on all day long. Susan's mother finally became concerned enough that she called Roanoke police and told them, "My daughter's not answering her phone. Something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong."
Her mother tells police that Susan has 2 children, 17-year-old Jennifer and 13-year-old David, and she can't get a hold of either one of them.
She had tried to call Jennifer, and Jennifer never answered the phone. She tried to call David. He never answered the phone. That really worried her.
Roanoke Police Department go do a welfare check that evening around 6:30 or so. When they get to the house at that time, there's really nothing that looks out of the ordinary. Car's not there. Nobody answers the door. There's nothing to indicate forced entry. There's no broken glass.
The house is locked and the car is gone. The porch lights were on. A lot of people, when they leave for the weekend or the night, they'll leave their porch light on, and it just looked like they had left the lights on the outside to try to make it safe. I knew Susan, and I could see her loading the kids up in the car and going, "I'm gonna take you away for a while, a short trip for the weekend." That wouldn't be unusual for Susan. Susan Bailey, you couldn't help but like her. I'd met her throughout town, interactions with her. She just had a great personality. She was real. There was no put on about her. She was as genuine as a day is long.
Originally from Minnesota, Susan had moved to California to pursue a career in fashion.
She got a job in J. Jacobs stores. At the time, it was a pretty big chain. Susan really enjoyed the work, and she was very good at it. And she was pretty quickly promoted to be a store manager. About that time, she met a man who was in the military. He was in the Air Force and fell in love with him. And they got married. Susan wanted to have children. And in 1990, she had a little girl she named Jennifer. And 4 years later, in 1994, she had a little boy that she named David.
6 years later, Susan's husband retired from the Air Force. By then, Susan's career had taken off.
Susan did so well as a store manager that she got the opportunity for a really good job in Texas. She was promoted to the position of being a supervisor over the chain of stores in 3 states.
After finding an up-and-coming neighborhood in Roanoke, the Baileys broke ground on their 3,500 square foot dream home.
Susan and her husband were one of the first houses in the neighborhood. Very nice woman. She was working a lot, so she was always going.
Susan was traveling all over Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, and she was gone from home a lot. But she made good money. And it was fairly convenient for her husband to stay at home with the kids.
Susan's husband did not work consistently, so she pulled most of the weight and paid for most of the bills.
Then, in 2005, the couple's financial footing fell.
The job that she moved to Texas for went away. The chain went bankrupt, closed all its stores. All of a sudden, Susan didn't have a job, and neither did her husband. And they were living in this huge big house payment.
Fearing her family would lose their home, Susan rolled up her sleeves.
She found another job with a Texas chain and went to work there as a clerk, but that didn't pay the bills. So she found a second job in another retail store. She took in sewing, and she sold Mary Kay cosmetics. As time went on, Susan and her husband grew farther and farther apart. She was working all the time, and she resented the fact that he wasn't.
After 2 decades of marriage, Susan and her husband divorced.
She got full responsibility for the kids and the house and both cars. Right after the divorce, Susan's husband moved to Iowa.
Because Susan was working so much, Jennifer was basically raising David. So they were tied at the hip because obviously they were at home and Susan was at work.
Susan realized this wasn't fair to her teenage daughter and began making an effort to be more present in Jennifer and David's lives.
They all loved to read, so they spent a lot of time in bookstores. They went to movies. They loved the Harry Potter books. They went together and watched the Harry Potter movies.
Whenever she had extra time, she did stuff and spent time with them.
In June 2008, Susan looked on with pride as her daughter graduated from Northwest High School.
After Jennifer graduated, Susan told me she was going to be going to art school and she was excited.
It was kind of expensive. Jennifer wanted to go, so she was going to make it happen for her daughter. And so she worked more hours.
But on September 26, 2008, Susan's mother has reported Susan and her children missing. More than 1,000 miles away in Minnesota, all Susan's mother can do is anxiously wait for updates from police in Texas.
Susan's mother didn't sleep very much that night, and the next morning she got up and tried to call Susan again. Still no answer. Still no answer from the kids. Susan's mother was absolutely panic-stricken.
Roanoke police go back and do another welfare check. And it's kind of the same thing. There's nothing that would indicate there's anything wrong except that, you know, the car's gone.
There's no reason for them to enter the residence, the privacy of someone's home. She's an adult, and nothing looks suspicious or out of place or out of the ordinary. Susan Bailey's mom, in looking not only for Susan, she's also looking for her grandchildren. And at this point, in her mind, something's possibly happened to all three.
Less than 12 hours later, a police officer 700 miles north of Roanoke spots something out of the ordinary.
September 28th, 3:30 in the morning in Yankton, South Dakota. He's out working night shift, and he sees this vehicle with Texas plates at a gas station that is obviously closed.
There's a car at the pumps, and he can see some, it looks like kids, out messing with the pumps. So he decided he better check this out.
Texas license plate, 3:30 in the morning, kids in a car, and there's no adult around.
We knew something was wrong. So he ran the plates, it came back to Susan Bailey.
The officer goes over to the driver's side. There's a teenage boy driving the car.
The teen identifies himself as 16-year-old Paul Henson. The other passengers are his girlfriend, 17-year-old Jennifer Bailey, and her brother, 13-year-old David Bailey. But 43-year-old Susan Bailey is nowhere in sight.
This raises quite a few red flags for him. Where is she?
There were 3 teenagers in the car up there in the middle of the night.
It does seem out of the ordinary that they are so far away from Texas and Susan Bailey is nowhere to be found.
The officer knew something was wrong.
Coming up, evidence points to a sinister crime.
On this receipt was a shopping list of things you would need to clean up a crime scene.
There was a suspicion that maybe this pudding was used to try and poison her.
And the investigation reveals a couple fueled by rage.
He became a little more violent, a little more aggressive. She transformed in front of my eyes. I'd never seen anything like it when she looked up at me, and it was evil.
A police officer in Yankton, South Dakota, has just pulled over 3 teenagers in Susan Bailey's car more than 700 miles away from her home. The officer first questions the driver, 16-year-old Paul Henson.
Your driver's license, proof of insurance, registration, please.
He said, well, I just got a learner's permit. He said, well, anybody else in the car got a driver's license? Well, no. He said, come over here and talk to me a little bit.
Where were you coming from tonight? I don't. Okay.
Unaware that Susan and her 2 children are missing in Texas, the officer's priority is finding out why the teens are driving around in the middle of the night without a license.
Then he said to Jennifer, you come get in the car with me. I want to talk to you a little bit. And so he said, well, this car comes back to Susan Bailey. Who is that? She said, well, that's Mom.
Does your mom know you have this car? No? Do your parents know where you're at?
No.
She said that they were going to Minnesota to visit her grandmother.
As he's talking to Jennifer, she indicates she's worried about her mother.
My mom.
Jennifer tells the officer there in South Dakota that Susan has a boyfriend by the name of Joseph, and Joseph is violent.
Jennifer made the comment that her mother was being stalked by her boyfriend and they just wanted to go visit the grandmother and just get away from all the drama there.
He has her attempt to call Susan her mom, and she's not having any success.
Jennifer said that she was afraid that Joseph might have done something to her mom.
So now the officer's not only concerned about the 3 individuals he has in front of him, but he's also now concerned about the safety and welfare of the parent, the mom of Jennifer.
He decided the thing for him to do would be to take the kids back to the police department.
They're in violation of curfew laws there in the city of Yankton, so he has cause to take them down to the police station and hold them. And he does that.
With the 3 teens safely down at the station, the officer reaches out to Roanoke Police.
He called Roanoke Police and said, listen, I've got 3 kids here for Roanoke. They were in their mother's car. She's not around. She's not answering her phone. What do y'all want me to do with these kids? Well, the Roanoke police officer who had answered the phone actually had been one of the officers who had been to the house.
And they're like, wait a minute, that's the same name of the person that we've been doing a welfare check on.
They told me that the Bailey kids were in South Dakota. I told them, I said, something bad happened. There's no way Susan would let those kids go off on their own.
So it sparks an alarm that something may be very wrong inside that house.
He said, I tell you what, we're gonna go check that house more carefully. Just keep them there, and I'll call you back and let you know.
They immediately go back to the residence. You know, this time they have to go in to see if Susan's okay.
They find a window that's unlocked, so they're able to get into the house.
As soon as he got in the house, he could smell something, and he knew what it smelled like.
These officers, they smell the unmistakable smell of death. They clear the bottom floor first.
They make their way up the stairs. They see that there's a body on the floor, and there's massive amounts of blood.
It was a slaughterhouse.
She still had a tag that said Susan on it. So he knew that was the woman they were looking for.
It's Susan laying face down. She's been there a couple of days at least. There's blood everywhere. There's blood on the walls. There's blood on the door. It's soaked into the carpet. It's horrific.
It was unnerving. I knew she was a good person, and when I first laid eyes on her, I felt really sorry for what she had to go through and what she endured. I remember I thought, this is going to be a big case.
The Texas Ranger that was assigned to this area was Texas Ranger Tracy Murphy. He was very well known. He had worked some very high-profile homicides.
It was the first homicide in the city's history. It was the first homicide Brian was going to be working. So they gave me a call. When I walked up the stairs and turned the corner and saw Susan, you can see obvious stab wounds. You can see that her throat's obviously been sliced.
There was a bat that was laying on a bed just approximately 5 foot, 6 foot from Susan's body. It looked like there was some blunt force trauma, so I believe the bat was involved.
It was a very violent death, and I could tell that there was a struggle. I could tell that she put up a little bit of a fight.
As they widen their search, new discoveries about the scene are equally chilling.
They go into one of the upstairs bathrooms and immediately see that the bathtub has standing water in it.
There's a knife in the bathtub.
There's 3 cell phones in the tub in the water. There is a smell, a chemical type, a bleach type smell. And there's a frayed electrical cord hanging from the shower curtain area. It's not in the water, but it's dangling there.
It had been cut and the ends had been frayed. And the immediate thing that came to my mind was someone was planning on trying to electrocute someone in the bathtub.
As the police and the ranger are processing all the items from the crime scene, they come upon a Walmart receipt.
It's dated during the time that Susan hadn't been heard from, and on this receipt is, there's cleaning supplies. And of course, we had the smell of bleach in the bathtub, so we're assuming that this was a shopping list of things you would need to clean up a crime scene. It shows at least some premeditation and some forethought to try to cover up their tracks.
Another thing that they took notice of was some pudding that was left out in the kitchen. The pudding had a weird color, consistency. It drew their attention. There was the suspicion that maybe this pudding was used to try and poison Susan. And so they sent that off to a crime lab to be tested.
Based on the evidence, investigators believe Susan was killed by someone she knew.
They've got a hardworking, law-abiding mom who has been brutally murdered in her own home. And they've got 3 kids up in South Dakota. 2 of them are Susan Bailey's children.
At the time of the teen's detainment, Susan's daughter, Jennifer, had reported that her mother was dating a violent man named Joseph.
Jennifer had told the officer that Joseph wasn't a very good boyfriend and that she was afraid that Joseph might have done something to her mom. We had to follow up on this Joseph guy.
Police in Roanoke, Texas, investigating the stabbing death of Susan Bailey, are searching for Susan's alleged boyfriend, Joseph, after her teenage daughter, Jennifer, claimed that he was violent.
It was the first time that I've ever heard that story at all. None of that had ever come up when I saw him in public or was around Susan.
Talking to Susan's mom. We were never able to identify anyone named Joseph. Susan didn't have a boyfriend. She didn't have time to date anybody. She was working all the time.
Detectives have a different theory, but it involves Jennifer's boyfriend, Paul Henson.
On September 23rd, prior to the murder, Paul had been reported missing by his parents, a runaway, possibility that he had a gun with him at the time, and so parents were worried.
Paul's father had given the police the name of his girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Bailey, and that, there was a good chance Paul might be located there, or at least Jennifer would have some knowledge of Paul's whereabouts. So Roanoke PD immediately went to the Bailey residence.
Susan talked to the police and assured them that Paul wasn't at the house, that he wasn't staying there. They talked to Jennifer, the same thing.
You have a boyfriend?
Ex. I broke up with him.
What's his name?
Paul.
Where's he at?
Right here.
Susan had told officers that she initially supported her daughter's relationship until recently.
Susan was very concerned about how invested Jennifer seemed to be in Paul.
Jennifer and Paul met in Spanish class. Jennifer read a lot of fantasy books. They had a lot in common because he liked fantasy as well.
Jennifer and Paul were holding hands, kissing in the hallways. It was definitely a weird romance. She'd sit in his lap and he'd just possessively put his arms around her. Jennifer was well-to-do, very well-kept, blonde, really pretty blue eyes. And then Paul, tall, dark, and always dirty.
They did not look like they went together at all. She kind of looked like the girl next door type, and he just, his looks and everything else, it looked mismatched to me.
At the end of Jennifer's senior year at school, there was a senior prom, and she wanted to go. She invited Paul to go with her. Susan was a wonderful seamstress, and she made a beautiful dress for Jennifer to wear. So they went to the senior prom together. Paul dressed up, and they had their picture made together.
Susan's thoughts about Paul was she didn't like Paul. Paul's a strange kid, and Susan didn't want him around. She didn't want Jennifer seeing Paul.
When asked about Paul's whereabouts on the 23rd, Susan had said she had no idea where he could be.
Susan said she hasn't seen him. He's not allowed there. But the police asked, hey, can we go look? Can we see?
Would you mind if we just come to the house and make sure that Paul's not here?
Yeah.
Susan led them in the house to come look for him to see if he might been inside the residence. It was in Jennifer's bedroom. They found some bags.
What's her bags packed for?
Jennifer, why are your suitcases in your room?
This looks confusing to me because this looks like she's fixing to go somewhere.
And where'd that gray suitcase come from? Did he give that to you? Don't tell me you don't know where it came from because it's never been in his house.
What's in that gray suitcase?
These aren't her jeans. These are Paul's clothes.
It's obvious that he had been there, probably been staying there for quite a while, and Susan was irate. She was very upset with Jennifer.
I'm really pissed. You tell me you break up with him, you just want to be friends, and I think you did it just so I would leave you alone. I told you he was bad news. Oh, I'm back myself then, okay?
They searched the house trying to find Paul. They never located him.
Given his familiarity with her, when Susan turned up missing only 3 days later, officers had approached Detective Peterson.
They knew that I knew Susan. At that time, I thought she was trying to probably get Jennifer away from Paul to take them someplace for the weekend just to let things die down.
Investigators suspect Paul Henson had become enraged when Susan had forbidden her daughter from seeing him. Back at the crime scene, they continue searching the house to determine if Jennifer and David were also involved.
In Jennifer's room, we find a piece of paper she'd written on, and part of it was talking about a new life with Paul in Canada.
While we were searching the room, there was a purse. Ranger Murphy went over to the purse and was opening it, and there was a school ID that was found.
I find a Northwest High School ID, a student ID, with a girl's picture on it and the name Marilee.
This causes them concern because that's not somebody who they suspect would live at that house, and she's not one of the people that's up in South Dakota. So who is she and where is she?
Authorities in Roanoke, Texas are investigating the murder of Susan Bailey. In her daughter Jennifer's bedroom, investigators have located identification for another teen.
There was an ID for a girl named Marilee. What does she have to do with this whole case? Why is her ID here in the Bailey house?
You know, normally people don't leave their purses, at other people's houses, so we were concerned if she was there when the murder took place. If something happened to her, we didn't know if she was involved or a possible victim.
So we tasked that to one of the detectives who immediately started to see who that was.
They discovered that she was in a city over from us in a juvenile detention center, and she was there for attacking her mother.
According to the police report, on the night of September 23rd, 3 days before Susan Bailey was reported missing, Marilee was arrested for trying to stab her mother while she slept.
Marilee's mom wakes up, her daughter's standing over with a knife. They struggle over it. She calls the police. It sent some chills down my spine. This is why she's in juvenile detention center, and we have Susan here dead, and it was bigger than what we thought.
Investigators know they need to speak to Marilee, but due to her age, a judge must first sign off on their request. Investigators face the same challenge when they travel to South Dakota to speak to 13-year-old David Bailey and 16-year-old Paul Henson. The only person they can interview is 17-year-old Jennifer Bailey.
She is an adult at 17 for our criminal law purposes.
I was a little unprepared for just how small in stature she was.
She was acting coy and acting innocent, that she didn't know anything was going on, still trying to blame the fake boyfriend, her mom had.
I knew she's lying, and we weren't really getting anywhere with her. We weren't really getting any answers. It was, I don't know how this happened.
Ranger Murphy, he decides that he's going to tell her that Marilee, who's back in Texas and is in juvenile custody, has confessed.
At the time, we had not talked to Marilee yet. It was a shot in the dark to try to get a response. I lied to her. I said, hey, we've talked to Marilee, and she told us everything. And when I said that, this young, timid, frail girl transformed in front of my eyes. I'd never seen anything like it. When she looked up at me, it was evil. Her jaw tightened and her shoulders tightened, and she wasn't afraid to look me in the eye anymore. If she could have come across the table and hurt me, she would have done it at that time. And her physical appearance changed. We weren't dealing with this little timid girl. We were dealing with a killer. After mentioning Marilee, she didn't want to talk anymore. And so we had to end the interview.
On September 29th, investigators received the results from Susan Bailey's autopsy.
The autopsy report showed 26 separate stab wounds.
The cuts were very deep. The cuts across the neck and the throat went all the way back to the spine, and there was some blunt force trauma.
There's basically 3 different types of stab wounds on Susan. You have, of course, the fatal blow across the throat, very deep cuts. You have some medium cuts that are not as deep, probably weren't going to be fatal, but were pretty severe. And then you had some cuts that barely scratched the surface of the skin.
Based on the evidence, the officers and the rangers surmised that the bulk of the stabbings and the throat slashing were more than likely at the hands of Paul Henson. He was probably big enough to overpower Susan.
Was Paul solely responsible? Did Jennifer have anything to do with it? Was David even there when it happened? We need to figure that out.
Searching for more evidence that might clarify the teens' roles, investigators follow up on the receipt for cleaning supplies found at the crime scene. The store's security footage reveals more than they expected.
You can see David on the outside security cameras coming up to Walmart. He goes in and he purchases the items.
He bought Formula 409 and a bottle of bleach and rode his bicycle home.
It's David who actually goes and picks up these things, riding his bicycle, and goes back home.
The whole time I'm watching that, I'm thinking, my Lord, I can't believe this kid, as young as he is playing this part.
We felt like we had enough physical and circumstantial evidence that these kids had committed this crime. The next step is trying to find out the extent of which one participated.
They are able to get arrest warrants for the three. Jennifer's 17 and alleged to have committed a crime in Texas. That makes her an adult. The other two are considered juveniles. So they bring the kids to Texas, and going through all the proper procedures of talking to a juvenile, they talk to Paul Henson. And while he's somewhat reluctant to give up too much information, he ultimately says that David went crazy, that David killed his mother, and that Jennifer and Paul were kind of scared, didn't know what to do, panicked, but Jennifer ultimately wanted to protect her brother, so they all fled.
We believe that David was involved, but he wasn't a lone actor on it. As short as David was and as tall as his mother was, there was no way.
The angle of the cut, the depth of the cut would indicate to me someone who's taller than her. Paul's about 6'1". He was the only one that could overpower her like that. David, he was 13 at the time. Very small stature, very thin, very frail. He looked like he was about 10.
Investigators next confront David about Paul's accusations.
The officers asked David, "What are you here for?" David said, "Oh, I'm here for murdering my mama." And he giggled. And the officers, they were absolutely horrified. They could not believe those words came out of that child's mouth.
That took me back. We weren't dealing with a normal 13-year-old kid here.
After reading David his Miranda rights, he refuses to cooperate. So investigators attempt to interview Jennifer Bailey a second time.
And this time she tells them that it was all Paul.
Her story was that she did nothing wrong, David did nothing wrong, Paul did everything.
The police are getting conflicting stories. Everybody's pointing the finger at each other.
6 days later, a judge signs off on law enforcement's request to interview 15-year-old Marilee.
Marilee is ultimately granted immunity, and in exchange for that agreement of immunity, she tells them everything.
When we first went to go talk with Marilee about what had happened, Marilee divulged that there was a plan, and she pinned it on Jennifer coming up with the idea to kill her mom. Some of the truth started coming out.
In Roanoke, Texas, a local teenager named Marilee has just implicated Jennifer Bailey as the true mastermind behind her mother Susan's murder.
What we learned from Marilee is that initially she's approached by Jennifer. That Jennifer, talks about she's dating this guy named Paul. Paul has a brother named Talos that, wants to date her.
Marilee claims she soon learned that Paul and Talos were one and the same.
Talos was Paul's alter personality that would come out. He believed that he was an executioner back in the, I guess, maybe 1600s.
Paul claimed that when he turned into Talos, then he became a little more violent, a little more aggressive, and that he could switch from Talos back to Paul and Paul back to Talos.
Paul is dating both of these girls at the same time.
He convinced them that he wasn't cheating on either one of them because one of his girlfriends was in love with Talos and the other was in love with Paul. And they bought that. They became intimate as a threesome. Paul liked to have sex with both girls and he liked to watch them have sex with each other.
They were into kind of dark mysticism, fantasy games, all this occultic type fantasy world. They got kind of wrapped off into the fantasy a little bit, and it became a reality. One of the things that they would do a lot of is they would cut each other on the back and then they would drink each other's blood or let Paul drink their blood.
As the relationship between the teens intensified, Marilee says their parents tried to intervene.
Marilee's mother told her, "You can't see Paul anymore." Jennifer's mother had told her she couldn't see Paul. Paul's dad had told him he couldn't see either girl. They believed that they had to stay together or they would not be together in their next life.
According to Marilee, that's when Jennifer hatched a plot.
They were all going to kill their parents. And then they were all going to flee to Canada and start a commune up there.
Marilee ran away from home. Paul ran away from home. They were both staying in the Bailey house, and when Susan came home, it was usually late at night. They would hide under the beds, and Susan was too tired to notice.
Marilee tells investigators that Paul planned to kill his father and stepmother before running away to Jennifer's house on September 23rd.
His intent was to shoot and kill his parents, and for some reason he didn't do it. And it almost foiled the plan because then their dad comes looking for him, and I think Jennifer was pretty angry about that.
After police failed to locate Paul at the Bailey home, Marilee says Jennifer tried to poison her mother.
Jennifer ground up an entire bottle of Tylenol and dumped it in some pudding. She said, "Mother loves chocolate pudding, she'll eat this."
Susan tried the pudding, it tasted horrible. She spit it out and wouldn't eat it anymore. So that plan is not going to work. But they were determined to kill her. And they planned to kill Susan, take her car, and then go live happily ever after. Marilee's mom, of course, is looking for her. And she actually finds her walking down the road. And she grabs her, puts her in the car, and takes her home. And this panics Marilee. She is bound and determined to go with them to Canada and to be a part of this happily ever after.
And the only way that she knew that she could get away was to kill her mother.
Marilee's mom is extremely lucky that she is not dead also. Marilee really helped tie up some loose ends and really helped give us a big picture of exactly what happened.
It wasn't a fit of rage. It was calculated. It was planned.
What I believe happened, and I think the evidence supports this, is that as Susan's walking down the hallway, she was attacked.
We always felt like Jennifer was standing in the front to confront her mom with the baseball bat.
Then I believe that Paul came up behind her and cut her throat. And I think Jennifer participated in stabbing her mom.
We always felt, with what the autopsy revealed, Paul was the one that did the massive stab wounds. We felt like Jennifer was in the front. On the superficial wounds, we always had the theory that it was David.
And I think they basically told David, you're going to do this too. All three participated in this. All three stabbed her. All three planned her death. And I believe all three are equally responsible.
Investigators believe that after the murder, the teens cleaned up the scene.
I think the bottom line is Jennifer Bailey manipulated Paul into doing her bidding. He would have done anything for her, and he did do anything for her.
Jennifer was 17. She wanted to see her boyfriend, she wanted to see friends, but she couldn't do any of that because she had to take care of her little brother. Jennifer really resented that, and as time went on, she began to hate her mother.
She had a very evil, evil heart. She did. To be that young, she had definitely darkness deep inside of her.
In 2009, all three defendants agreed to plead guilty to murder.
Jennifer and Paul were both offered 60 years in prison in exchange for a guilty plea, waiving their right to trial, waiving their right to appeal.
Because of David's extreme youth, the judge gave him a 26-year prison sentence.
think justice was served for Susan.
The power of love can make you do sinful things. Who knew you would want to escape your life so badly that you would do something that horrific to somebody that you're supposed to love?
Jennifer and Paul were so caught up in the fantasy that they had created about star-crossed lovers that they just went crazy.
The murder of Susan Bailey is tragic in so many ways. These kids were well cared for and loved by their mother, and she poured her whole life into them. And for them to not only take her life, but to take it in such a brutal, brutal fashion, it's really just evil.